Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. So for today's head-to-head comparison, we get to take a look at the all-new 2024 Lexus GX550 and the 2024 Toyota Land Cruiser. Now I'm borrowing the Land Cruiser from FOURR Toyota Statesville, so take a look at their website. That link is down in the description. Now both of these specific trim levels have a very similar MSRP. We have the Land Cruiser trim level, so this is the middle trim at $67,000, and then for the Premium Plus, which is one of six, MSRP is closer to $71,000. So both of these are very, very identical, close enough that you would be cross-shopping each of these. Now, for the Land Cruiser, this has a base MSRP at $55,000. It creeps up to $74,000. For the GX, starts at $64,000 and goes up to $81,000. So the Lexus is a more expensive vehicle in general, but again, with both of these being very similar, this is something that you'll be cross-shopping. Do you want something that's going to be a little bit more off-road focused or something that is a little bit more luxury focused? So let's move on to what powers both of these. The Land Cruiser has a 2.4 liter inline four-cylinder turbo hybrid. It is paired to an 8-speed automatic, and it pumps out 326 horsepower, 465 pound-feet of torque. For the GX, this has a 3.4 liter twin turbo V6 paired to a 10-speed automatic, and it pumps out 349 horsepower, 479 pound-feet of torque. Now both of these have a full-time four-wheel drive system. We have a curb weight of 5,500 pounds, 5,000 pounds for the Land Cruiser. 0 to 60 is going to be around 7.7 seconds for the Land Cruiser, 6.5 seconds for the GX. We have top speeds that are just over 100 miles an hour, not really all that important for these SUVs. But as far as MPG goes, the GX is looking at 15 in the city, 21 on the highway, 22 and 25 for the Land Cruiser. And then as far as their overall dimensions go, we have a wheelbase of 112.2 for both of these. The GX is going to be a little bit longer at 197 versus 193 for the length. The width is the same. The height is a little bit taller for the Land Cruiser, surprisingly. Ground clearance is going to be 8.7 inches for both of these models. And then as far as their approach, departure, and breakover angles go, that's going to be very similar, but the Land Cruiser is going to be a little bit better in all three of those, being that it is a little bit more off-road focused. Now, as we work our way to the exterior styling now, we have completely different looks. For the Toyota, a little bit more old school, dating back to some of the original Land Cruisers with that squared off grille, Toyota logo right in the middle. There is a forward-facing camera as well as a sensor, all the parking sensors. There's a boxy style for the LED headlights, rigid fog lights in the lower section there, and then some nice hood bulges coming down the hood. That's probably the only thing that's shared over with the GX. We have the same style for those hood bulges on both sides, and then more of that luxury vibe with that hourglass grille. There's the sensor, forward-facing camera. This has distance pacing as well. The fog lights in the lower section have the gloss black trim accents, so just a little bit more luxury focused, of course. And then there's that DRL, all the LEDs up top, and then some cutouts in the lower section, which are over on the Land Cruiser there. And then as we work our way to the side, this particular Land Cruiser does have a dealer installed package. So it comes with the Nitto tires as well as these 18-inch wheels. And then for the Premium Plus, these I believe are the only wheels that come on this. So those are a little bit larger, and of course you can change those depending on the trim level or if you do that aftermarket, of course. Now for the Lexus, body colored fender flares versus the plastic on the Land Cruiser, being that you can take this off-road. It's not as much paint to scrape on things and all of that. Now we do have running boards installed on both of these. They are plastic on the Land Cruiser here. Would be nice to see maybe a rock rail or something as part of the packages for off-roading. But as far as their side profile goes, we have roof racks on both of them. There's a sunroof for the GX, no sunroof on this particular Land Cruiser. But hopefully you can tell there are some similar design elements with the lines that run down the side, the boxiness that they have. The fender arches do look identical with how they are curved on both of them. So very, very similar again for their side appearances. And then in back, we do have some more similarities. This has the glass that opens up, so just push on that button. You can gain access to the back where there is no third row for the Land Cruiser. You can also use the control for the power liftgate. which is nice. So just depending on the items that you're putting into the back, you do get a little bit of storage underneath the floor. You'll notice too that there are areas here where the third row could be, but again, that's not an option. They just have these in here. You could use it for additional storage or anything like that. And then you have the controls up top, you have the backup camera, all the sensors, LED lights. This tows right around 5,000 pounds, so it's pretty moderate if you have some smaller items that you need to tow. We have that design in the rear bumper there, as well as mud flaps for this model. Now, as we take a look at the GX, everything is pretty much nearly identical. You can use the same control to open this up, where you can gain access to the back. We have the backup camera, the LED light bar there, parking sensors, and then this can tow closer to 8,000 pounds. So if you do need the towing practicality, this will tow much more. Now, in the back of the GX, we have the same areas on both sides, except these are functional because we do have the third row. So these are automatic, so you do have to wait for them to come up. A little bit of a slow process, I will say. I wish it was a little faster. From here, you can actually lift the headrest up, and you have this control here to pop it down. So it makes it much easier for better visibility when you have no one in that third row. And then we have the same control to close that lift gate. Now let's work our way to the back of the Land Cruiser now, where for this interior, it's a pretty nice layout with the materials that you have. There's a release handle, a little bit of storage, and then you'll notice too that you can recline the second row here. Look at how much farther back that is to really make it that much more comfortable. Now you have storage pockets. This even has all of your temperature adjustments that you can control. There's some auxiliaries down below. And then as far as headroom, at 5'10", I have a lot of headroom with the back seat reclined. If we put it all the way up, I still have 3 inches or so of headroom. So you could be much taller than me and still fit comfortably in the back of this SUV. So headroom is not an issue for this vehicle. You have the armrest there with some cup holders. There's even the grab handles and vents in the back. So it's interesting that Toyota decided to keep those without having that third row. Now, with the GX, you can actually get the Overtrail and Overtrail Plus without the third row, but the third row is standard in the rest of the 4 trim levels. Now, for this particular model, we do have some nicer leather materials along with the brown. There's the wood trim, storage in the lower section there. And then the back seats are nearly identical as far as being able to recline them. Now we have storage pockets. This seat has that easy entry and exit for the driver, so it is a little bit farther back at the moment. But in the Lexus, you get the heated seats along with the rest of the controls, some auxiliaries down below. And then headroom is going to be very similar with the seat all the way back, and then with it up a little bit less there. It just depends on how you have this seat. But you could sit comfortably in the second row. You have the armrest, cup holders there, even the leather strap there, which is nice. And then in order to hop into the third row, let's see how this works here. We need to move this seat out of the way. So it looks like you just have to have some adjustments here to do that. So once we move that out, I think we can flip this down and lock it into place there. So that makes it very easy to hop into this third row. Now, being in the third row, it's gonna be a little bit tight, especially at 5'10". My head is just up against the headliner here. I can also recline these seats as well. So bring them up, recline them back. We have a USB there. So it's not the largest third row, but I could be back there if I really needed to. It's nice to have that additional practicality if and when you need it. Now let's work our way to the fronts now, where on this driver door panel, we have the power folding side mirrors, all the window adjustments, really nice layout with all of the materials, and of course these two-tone seats. Now, I will have a full review on this exact GX550, so stay tuned for that if you want to see everything in greater details. We also have a lot of reviews on the Land Cruiser as well. So I'm going through this fairly quickly just because we have those detailed reviews. We have leather on the steering wheel. There's also paddle shifters as well. You have your cruise, distance, pacing, your lane keeping assist, and then we have these controls here for the gauge cluster. Now, what's going to be similar is the settings here. So you have 3 different settings, and you can customize all 3 of these. So just by holding on OK, you can go through the middle as well as the left and the right and decide what you would like to have. So you have 3 different presets for all that information. On this left side, there's a safety control along with the power liftgate. There is a power outlet in the bed. You get memory seating adjustments. There's also the air vent, head-up display, and then the large infotainment system. Now you can go through the nav, you have your music along with your phone. You have some different settings that you can go into, including some off-road information, and then some more settings here just to personalize this the way that you would like to. There's not a whole lot of information, but it's incredibly easy to go through. This also gets heated and ventilated seats. You do have some climate adjustments, as well as going into some favorites here. Frequently used, you have your head-up display, driving assistance that you can turn all of those on and off. You can even adjust the rear climate, which is really nice. You have the temperature dials, fan speed, volume in the middle, 2 more air vents. There's also some auxiliaries on that right side. And then you get 3 different driving modes for this GX. There's Sport, Normal, and Eco. It's just going to modulate that throttle response. And then over on this left side, there's the view button. So you can pull up this camera angle here, so that way you can look around before you decide to take off. Trailer braking system is also just underneath that. And then you have ECT second, so you can push on that, which is going to start this in second gear. So if you're towing, if you happen to take this off-road, you can use that as needed. There's also tow and haul, traction control. And then as we put this into reverse, we have that backup camera with the guidelines as well. There's also drive and the manual setting. Now there's also cup holders on this right side that you can cover up. We have the FOURR low as well as the locking center diff, e-brake, and auto hold. There's wireless charging and then storage in the middle. You also get plenty of storage in the glove box and a small lip up top, so you can place items there. We have garage door buttons up top as well, and then some dome lights, and then the sunroof and sunshade adjustments. And here's a look at visibility. It's going to be about the same with the boxy style that each of these have. So there's really not all that many blind spots to a vehicle like this with how squared off all of the windows are. And as we work our way to the Land Cruiser, my first time checking one of these out, we do have a nice interior here with these materials. Looks like we have power folding side mirrors there, all of the window adjustments, more storage. And then we have the Softex leather seats for this model. And as we hop in now, we have a little bit different of a layout, but everything is kind of similar. We have the leather steering wheel. You have cruise, adaptive cruise, all of those settings. You have volume, and then you have the adjustments to go through the gauge cluster. It's going to be the exact same as far as going into these settings and customizing what you would like to see. Maybe a little bit different of a layout, but everything is virtually identical there. On the left side, we have the power outlet. There's also the rear liftgate. You have the gas cap. There's also the trailer braking system, automatic headlights. There's a safety sense there, fog lights as well. 1 air vent. No head-up display for the Land Cruiser, but you'll notice that this screen here is virtually identical. A little bit different shape, might be slightly smaller, but all of this is going to be the exact same layout as far as the information goes. Now there's air vents in the middle. Tow and haul is tucked away over behind the start button there. And then all these controls are identical. You have heated and ventilated seats in this model, along with the heated steering wheel. All of your adjustments for the fan speed and where you'd like the air to go are laid out nicely. There's a view button hidden down below, so you get that same graphic to go through all that information there. There's USB-Cs, a little bit of storage down below. You have a similar drive select with the same modes here. However, with the Land Cruiser, you get the multi-terrain select, the downhill assist, and crawl control. So like I mentioned earlier, more off-road focused by being able to go through those depending on the driving and terrain that you are in. We have the backup camera, very identical. You have the same shifting ability. No paddle shifters for the Land Cruiser, so you can only shift with the actual shifter. There's the e-brake, auto hold. You have traction control. There's the stabilizer sway bar disconnect. You have a center lock, a rear locker, and then 4 low. 2 cup holders on that side, similar amount of storage. And then you have room in the glove box. There's no lip up top there. You have the rear view mirror, and then the dome lights up top, and then no sunroof here. And then maybe a little bit different of a pillar there. We'll have to see once we get this out on the road, but it's nearly identical as far as the visibility goes. So there is a look at the exterior and the interior for both of these boxy SUVs. Now let's get them out on the road and see how they compare. So let's start off with the Toyota Land Cruiser. This is my first test drive being able to get behind the wheel. Now, my brother has made several videos on the Land Cruiser, so if you want to see more details, take a look at those videos. This is a brand new vehicle, so I won't be doing any hard accelerations in it, of course, today. But from what I've heard from my brother's experience driving this with the hybrid, this definitely has a lot of get up and go to it. Now, as far as its drive, and I'm using his experience as well, from putting some miles on this is going to drive a little bit more like the FOURRunner, a little bit like the Tacoma. So it's still going to provide you with a nice smooth ride, but it's not quite on that upper luxury level like the Lexus, as you will see once we get behind the wheel. But to me, it rides very nice. So just with a small acceleration there, we can get up to speed where it's going to have plenty of power. This is the powertrain that I am going to get in my Tacoma. So once I get my hybrid Tacoma, I will have more ownership experience with this powertrain and this engine. But so far, this is really nice. Driving the GX here to do this comparison gave me a good seat time behind the GX to help compare to this, where we have a similar outlook of the hood there and then a very similar interior. So really, it's just going to boil down to, do you want a vehicle that's a little bit more off-road focused here? Can you do without the third row and the extra towing? So if you're looking to maybe just off-road a little bit, you're not really concerned about towing, you don't need that third row, this is a good option to go with because you cannot get a third row with the Land Cruiser. But I really like how it's driving. Seems pretty quiet, smooth. It seems like I'm almost driving my third gen Tacoma in a sense. Visibility is also really nice. We do have this action camera, which I forgot to mention. That is not on the GX unless that's a dealer installed aftermarket option for these vehicles. But it drives very nice. I think this would make for a great daily driver. It's weird that it's very similar in size to the GX550. It doesn't seem like that from the inside. I feel a lot higher up in the GX versus this Land Cruiser. So maybe it's just the seating position where the door handle is or the armrest there is. So it feels a little bit different, a little bit smaller on the inside as well as far as the seats and the space in the middle here. So let's put it into the manual setting now, and we can put it into a sport mode where we'll get a little bit more throttle input, and then we just have the shifter to go through these gears. So from second gear, without even thinking, we are up to speed. So there's a lot more potential than that, but with this hybrid power plant, you definitely have no shortage of power. So this is gonna be a quick SUV, and it's going to give you that power for merging, daily driving, towing, off-roading. If you plan to put some larger tires on as well, you have plenty of power with the hybrid system. So now let's transition to the GX550. And so behind the wheel of the GX550, I do have more experience in reviewing these vehicles, and this is our first press vehicle with the GX550. So I just got this today. I will have a 1-week review video coming once I have some more seat time behind the wheel. But with this being a press vehicle, I can give it a little bit more juice. We have a lot more power for this, and I do feel a lot higher up than in the Land Cruiser, which is interesting to see. But we also have a little bit more of a refined ride, which is nice. Turning radius is about the same, and if I give it some gas here, a little bit more of an acceleration. It is a heavier vehicle, so the 0 to 60s kind of feel the same. I know one is a little bit quicker than the other. They're not really 0 to 60 type of vehicles, but they have an adequate amount of power for their respective weights. Now, behind the wheel of the GX, driving it about 40 minutes to go do this review. Now, I own an X5, and this is something that I will be cross-shopping with getting a GX550 when it comes time to replace my X5. So as far as luxury focused vehicles go, I have the adaptive suspension in my X5, which rides so smooth. This doesn't have anything for the suspension. It's just the basic standard suspension, and it rides very nice. So comparing to the Land Cruiser, it's going to be a little bit more refined. It's the Lexus version, of course, so Lexus and Toyota, you're gonna have a little bit more refinements on the Lexus side versus the Toyota. But this is more of a vehicle that is going to give you a little bit more space, a little bit more comfortable for daily driving. You don't have any of those off-roading settings for this model here, but you have a little bit different of a design to go through all this information. And as far as visibility goes, it's going to be what you would expect. We have the same rectangular style side mirrors there to see. It's very helpful to have the third row headrest down as well, so you get that full picture in the back. But this is a nice vehicle, very comfortable. I like the armrest here. It is much higher up than in the Land Cruiser. So to me, I feel higher up. I can see the hood bulges a little bit different. So the seating position is a lot different than in the Land Cruiser. And we do have a little bit more safety technology that I go through in the full review. So these are so close in their MSRP, it's really hard to judge which one you would want to go with, but they do offer two different purposes for each model. So let's put it into sport mode now, where we can use the paddle shifters, which I think is nice. And with a similar acceleration and that extra weight, they seem to get up to speed about the same relatively for those accelerations. And as far as handling goes, I didn't mention that. They seem to be about the same. We do have a heavier GX here, so it is going to feel a little bit more of the body roll, but it's still well composed like the Land Cruiser as well. And so now back with our final thoughts between the Lexus GX550 and the Toyota Land Cruiser. Honestly, both of these are very cool SUVs. Personally, for me, I'm leaning towards the GX550 only because I need that extra towing capabilities that the Land Cruiser doesn't have, and I'm also planning to get the 4th generation Toyota Tacoma. So I have a vehicle to off-road. If I wanted an SUV to off-road, I would go with the Land Cruiser over the GX550, but I plan on going with the GX550 for my wife's X5 replacement because of the towing, because of the third row at some point if we need that extra space. If you're not looking for that, you want a little bit more, kind of like a 4Runner. The new 4Runner is going to have a third row, so that could almost be a comparison, Land Cruiser versus the 4Runner at some point. But comment down below, would you go Land Cruiser or GX550? If you enjoyed today's video, give it a huge thumbs up and consider smashing that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our daily uploads. I will see you all in the next video.